Good morning and welcome to today's edition of Daily Divas. We are talking about Jeremiah 30:17, and it says, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord." Now, for many of you that know about my Teal Heart Society, my Warriors and Divas, Dinah's Defenders, those are all geared towards helping people heal from pain, from trauma, from life circumstances that have gotten in their way. And today, this verse seems appropriate for what I do. I mean, this is a substantial verse in a lot of what I talk about with people. But have you ever gone to get healing and wanted to get through the healing as fast as the occurrence that caused the pain? You know, whether you're playing softball and you're sliding into home plate and you break an ankle, that happened fast, right? But the healing process takes months. My trauma, I've said it before, it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Um, I'm a military sexual trauma advocate. Um, with all of that, we also realize that that trauma doesn't necessarily heal in months. It may take years to heal from. So a lot of times people are talking, we got to get healing, we got to get healing. And they go and they get the first layer. We talk about healing being a layer, being layers like an onion, right? So they deal with the first layer and then they back off for a little bit because that wore them out. It's like going to physical therapy. You go to physical therapy, you don't stay in physical therapy for 24 hours, 7 days a week. You go for a little bit, then you go and let your body rest. Then you go a little bit and you let your body rest. Same thing with healing from trauma. Sometimes you go to your appointment, then you go home and you do rest and reflection. Then you go back to your appointment and you go home and you do rest and reflection. But you stay engaged with the ones that can lead you through that trauma. I got tickled yesterday. My husband had a TV show on, and the therapist was talking to somebody on there, and he asked her a question. She goes, "Well, I could answer that now, but what would we do with the other 50 minutes?" So many times we want to sit in the chair and have somebody fix us. When in reality, a lot of what healing is isn't about somebody externally fixing us, it's about an internal battle. God has equipped us with everything we need to be able to find hope and healing through Him. However, it's those external people that help us see what we can't see because as they say, you can't see the forest for the trees. I um I am one of those that I jokingly say trauma gave me my sense of humor, but to be honest, I had a sense of humor long before my trauma ever happened, but it just sharpened my sense of humor, you might say, maybe gave it an edge, as that may say, but, I will say the very first time I peeled that first layer of the onion off, one of my biggest triggers was I wasn't able to sit in a restaurant or sit anywhere where my back was to a door. I just couldn't do it. I was always on alert. I was always on guard. I was always in a watchman stance. And I remember sitting in a restaurant in a busy hotel, and I was facing the wall, eating a bowl of soup. I was all by myself. And I know the people around me must have started looking at me like I was weird because I was sitting there eating my bowl of soup, laughing. And it was because I was realizing, oh, this is what a level of freedom feels like. See, It was in that moment that I realized that's what I wanted everybody else that had felt the pain and the suffering of trauma to feel. I wanted them to find those small victories because you know what? Small victories lead to bigger victories. And having that moment of clarity and that realization that I was sitting with my door to a busy room, to a door, I wasn't in fear anymore, then that gave me inspiration that I should go back and get more healing. It gave me the strength to go back and get more healing. I just went through another healing exercise last week with a colleague. These things are important to me because on the other side of that healing is a level of freedom. And if we're to be free, we have to be free from all that holds us back from the goodness and the greatness of God, right? So, have you ever had any triggers that hold you back from being all that you are called to be? From seeing God in all of his glory for you? Have you ever um, felt the angst of not being well and just wanting to be well? It takes an investment. It takes an investment of your time and it takes an investment in yourself. Sometimes that's monetary, sometimes that's people that do it for free, but it's finding the help. I'll tell you another trigger that's kind of funny. Uh, One of the ways that God has a sense of humor for me is, and I don't even know that most of my husband's family knows this, but one of my triggers was bulldogs. That's because the guy that assaulted me after my assault used the Marine Corps bulldog to follow me around and have the bulldog snap at me. Um, because he was on restriction, but he could go anywhere the bulldog went. And so whenever I would be walking to my barrack, which happened to be close to his barrack, he would sick the dog after me, or he would wait for me to come out of that barrack and have that dog bite and snarl at me and stuff. So I had this big trigger about bulldogs, right? Well, interesting enough, I marry a man. His last name's Monroe, of course. You know, you can see that on the screen. But his mom's family name is Mac. Have you ever heard of Mack Trucks? Have you ever seen their logo? That's a bulldog. Not only that, his uncle, who is kind of like the patriarch of the family, he's a huge Georgia Bulldog fan. Like, you go to their house, and he had a whole room dedicated to Georgia Bulldogs. He just recently passed away, Army veteran, last summer, and his whole house was Bulldog. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that I was able to actually be in a room with a bulldog without having that heartbeat, that anxiety, that trigger. It just something it was a layer that was buried deep, and it took years for me to get to be able to find that healing. But we were mining for diamonds because underneath all that trauma is a diamond. It's something that's been put into a lot of pressure, and it's going to come out shining. I don't know what that looks like yet because I'm not sure that we're completely to the diamond mine yet. But we are constantly looking at ways to mine for the diamonds that are inside of me. So I just want you to think about your healing journey. Is there something you need healing for that you've been resistant to get healing for? Is there something that's holding you back from being all you can be in your relationships, in yourself, in your career, in your family? Is there something that's holding you back because you haven't dealt with healing in that area? Then I encourage you to do that today. Because healing is a gateway to more light, more love, more relationships, more freedom. It's a gateway. But sitting in your trauma is a prison cell. and it keeps you locked away from all the things that you want and all the things that you dream of. So I apologize for my voice today. I'm still healing from allergy stuff going on, but here are your 3 challenge questions. Where have you seen small signs of healing in your life? I shared some of mine. I would love to hear some of yours. And then, are you giving yourself permission to heal on your own pace? Sometimes you just need to realize that healing is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take time, and you're worth the investment. No matter what anybody says, no matter what you're telling yourself, you're worth the investment. And then, what does trusting God with your wounds look like today? What if you took time today and opened up your journal and you wrote down all the things that are causing you pain today? And then just start asking God to help you by taking that pain away and replacing it with joy, replacing it with peace, replacing it with comfort. Because He is the great I am. He can replace all that pain with something so much sweeter. So I hope you got something out of today's message, out of today's devotional. Because if you didn't get anything, I want you to know more than anything, you're worth it. You are worth the journey of healing. And I hope you get yours today. I hope you have an amazing day, because the healing journey is the journey to true freedom in Christ. And I look forward to hearing from you and hearing your answers to the questions below. Have a great day. Bye now.